So, welcome back for the main panel today. I start in English because it will be an English presentation. And I'm really happy to introduce to you our moderator, Alex Farcet, who is one of the partners of Rainmaking, a venture fund that is actually supporting and accelerating companies with impact. And they also founded Startup Bootcamp, and that is actually where we met 2011 at a startup weekend in Copenhagen. And now I'm really excited to have this event together. Alex, can you hear me already?
I can, thank you. Hi, Laura, good morning.
Super, great to have you. I do hear we actually have still the issue that we need to get one of the panelists into Zoom, but the moment we have solved that, your panel is ready, and I think you can probably already start with the other two. So I would listen, very excited, and be in the background, and you will notice when everyone is there.
Great, so I see Donya. Good morning, Donya.
Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
And then we have Karol from IKEA. Hi, Karol.
Hey, good morning.
All right, and we're still working on getting Annika. I know she's been able to use Zoom before because we've talked on Zoom, but somehow there's some issue there. Hopefully we'll fix that as we go. So thank you very much for joining. And I have my glasses ready to read questions on Slack. So I encourage all the participants to also contribute with questions. I have a few ready, but to be honest, having spoken to each panelist individually, we can just have a free-ranging conversation because there's so much interesting things going on and you all have very interesting positions and a lot to share. So I don't have too many prepared questions. We're just going to have to wing it a little bit. So the topic is, the headline is going from climate targets to action. So we're really, interested in you as practitioners. And I'm also interested in your personal challenges and motivations, and we'll see if there are differences or alignment around those. But why don't we start with quick intros? And since I'm talking, I'll try and talk the least on this, but I'll start just very quickly with myself. So yeah, I'm a partner at Rainmaking, and we're an innovation and venture building firm. And we work a lot at the intersection of corporates and startups. And we help intrapreneurship inside internal innovation. We help corporates work with startups, and we also do venture building. And we've done a lot of work in verticals, digital health, smart tech, etc., fintech. And in a way, this sustainability, climate change, SDGs is kind of a horizontal. It just goes across so many industries. And I think it was you, Karol, saying the net zero economy, which is just basically front and center. So we've been very keen on, bringing the innovation toolbox we've built the last 10 years to this topic. And I'm very curious to hear, what you guys are up to. So without further ado, Donya, if you could introduce yourself. And I'm very curious, you have co-founder in your title, which is very unusual for a corporate setting. And somehow maybe, are you a corporate or are you not? And what is the context?
Well, Alex, yes, we have a co-founder I have a co-founder in my title, and we are really a startup within an enterprise. And the main reason is because my company Bosch, they became last year carbon neutral, producing carbon neutral in scope 1 and 2 in our entire Bosch Group landscape, which means we have more than 400 locations worldwide, and we are located in more than 60 countries. And in 2019, we were brave enough, and our board announced that Bosch sets the goal to become a first industry giant producing carbon neutral by 2020, which was really somehow like an earthquake in the industry, because any other company were talking about different timescales, and 2020 sounds quite ambitious, and it was. And the team behind, around Thorsten Kalweit, they really did an amazing job. And the outcome was really that we made it. So 2020, since February, Bosch is producing carbon neutral in scope 1 and 2. And based on our experience, we were asked by so many other companies, how did we do it? How did we reach this point and what is the magic behind? And honestly, it's just four levers. I would like to say it's energy efficiency, it's generating our own green energy, it's also purchasing green energy, and for sure some of our carbons are offsets. And this knowledge around framing a sustainability strategy, framing a CO2 agenda, implement it, roll it out, take your workforce with you, create a spirit of transformation around sustainability. All this knowledge is something what we as Bosch Climate Solutions, we are multiplying it into the market with our clients, and we are really trying to speed up their journey and to accelerate the carbon neutral of other companies based on our learnings, because time is crucial in this topic, and that's what we like to do. We really would like to find other lighthouse companies, other ones who would like to follow us. And I think IKEA is a perfect example how you can really make a drumbeat in the market by your attitude and by being a leader, what you are doing in the area of sustainability. So that's a hopefully shortcut.
I muted myself. After all this time on Zoom, we're still making these rookie mistakes. So you didn't talk too much about yourself. So let me ask Karol to introduce himself. I think Annika is still struggling behind the firewall of her company. But if you could introduce yourself, Karol, and then we'll come back to you, Donya. I'm interested in your personal history as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey everyone, so my name is Karol. Thank you for having me. I studied the renewable energy science 10 years ago in Iceland. And that's part of the topic, what brought me into this topic is very much how much we can do regional development and create better living for people if we scale up the renewable energy science. And that was my beginning of the journey. And then after the studies, I was looking for a job and trying many startup things like electric vehicles implementation in Iceland 10 years ago, which wasn't easy, as you can tell, considering where we are today. And then I joined IKEA to work within the supply chain. And because IKEA at that time was establishing the reporting of energy and climate data from direct suppliers, and to work with energy audits and scaling up renewable energy use in the supply chain, as well as improving energy efficiency. Then after that, I was working with climate and energy for IKEA in Poland, considering the retail operations and the supply chain as well. And there, the interesting part was because IKEA has a quite unique approach toward renewable.
Somehow I'm in.
Annika, we hear you?
I cannot hear them, and I cannot get my. Yeah, I will start my video.
Annika, can you hear us?
I think she's muted now.
Well, she's not muted because we could hear her. Okay, crack on, Karol. We'll see.
Can you hear and see me?
We can hear you, Annika. We can't see you yet.
Video. I'm asking for that. Doesn't allow me to start the video. Start my video. I'm trying.
Okay, let me just contact the host.
Please select another camera.
The
beauties of Zoom.
When we are talking about these kind of different technologies these days,
I can see them. I cannot.
The firewall is really a burden.
They are laughing. And
yeah.
So we have added her. We hope you can turn on your camera now. We also allow you to turn it on. Maybe that is a reason, you have to turn on the camera, then everything should work. But we are working behind the scenes, just to let you know. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. Right. Good. Then I will just continue. And I've been working with implementation of home solar business in Poland as IKEA to offer the home solar for the many people, at the same as supporting the investments when it comes to renewable energy in Poland, because IKEA is investing directly into renewable energy generation, and we own more than 500 turbines around the world today. To be able to reduce our climate footprint. And for last 4 years, I've been working with setting up the new strategy around climate positive IKEA together with my colleague from IKEA, because I'm representing the Ingka GROUP as one of the 2 largest companies working under IKEA brand. And and it's exciting journey, and I'm so looking forward to share all the challenges and opportunities and how we are seeing scaling up and why we are hopeful as well looking into the future.
All right, thanks, Karol. I want to ask about this planet positive thing later. And good, we're already getting some questions on Slack, so keep them coming. So Donya, just a word about yourself, because you went into company mode and started telling the story. Of course, I asked you about why you were co-founder, but what is I see you were at IBM before, so you have this sort of digital background, which is interesting. But what's your story and why are you in this position today?
Well, I mean, my story from an education background, I'm a finance person and a business administration, but as you said, Alex, I worked for IBM for more than 17 years, and therefore during this journey, I gained a lot of IT experience. That's when I changed from IBM to Bosch a couple of years ago. I had the chance to be part of the Bosch management team for IT. So I fully understand what Annika at the moment is struggling with when the firewall is not supporting your way. And one of the next steps that brought me into the sustainability part are really 2 areas. First of all, I think it's one of the biggest challenges, and Beth just mentioned it before. I was at the Singularity University in 2019, where John Foley really did a fantastic speech on carbon neutrality and the climate crisis itself. And John will be, I think, one of the keynote speakers today as well. So this was really for me a moment of truth when I thought we have to tackle this challenge together.
No, I don't.
And the other thing is really that tackling this challenge has also something to do with data, but it also needs to be, from an economic standpoint, something where companies has a chance to see it as an investment with a return.
No,
and therefore,
without the headset, I can.
Not so much, Annika.
Yes. Hi.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
I know that you cannot see me. It's my firewalls, and I'm so sorry about this. Now I tried all the different things, and I'm even logged in on one of Teresa's account. But can you hear?
Absolutely, we can hear you fantastic.
We can hear you. In fact, you're coming, it's a little bit loud, so I don't know if the microphone is very close, but otherwise we're fine. We can hear you. Welcome. Good morning. We were just doing introductions, so I'll let Donya finish, and then I'll ask you to...
Just the last sentence, Alex. So I think one of the challenges is really to bring the ecology part and the economy part and the social part in balance. That's why if you have a finance background and you come from IT and you have a deeper insight on sustainability, it might be a good match to tackle this challenge. And that's why I really had the chance to co-found this company together with Thorsten Kalweit, who did the internal Bosch journey, and he's the head behind our carbon neutrality at Bosch. And these, let's say, skills together really join forces, and with our team, I think we are quite a good startup in an enterprise. And with this, back to you, Alex, or to Annika to introduce yourself.
Thanks. Okay, Annika. Good morning. Sorry about the chaotic start, but we can settle down now.
Yes, I'm calm as long as you are calm.
We're very calm. It's all good. It's Friday. We're relaxed. It's day 2 of the conference. I think day 1 was good. So yeah, we're just doing very quick intros, Annika. So could you tell us about your personal history and your role at Vattenfall?
Yes, well, I've been, my current role is as head of sustainability at Vattenfall, something I've done now for 7 years, but I've been in the company for more than 30 years by now, in a lot of different positions. So I'm really a change agent, you can say. I've been driving business development and 17 different areas, and I've worked pretty much everywhere except within nuclear.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So let's get cracking. So Karol, you mentioned planet positive. Can you explain what that means? Because, you know, how close to zero is it?
Yeah,
just above zero. And what's the difference with what everyone else is doing? how are you guys approaching it at IKEA?
Yeah, I think just to as well give the perspective, when we've been working on the climate positive, it was 2017. So it was before IPCC report was published with net zero 1.5 explaining the pathway after the Paris, which was like really important part. And what do we mean by climate positive? First of all, we take full scope of responsibility when it comes to value chain. We don't focus, like, for example, on operations, because that will be only 2.2% of our total value chain footprint. We focus on the supply chain, which is when materials, if you are producing products, materials are majority of your footprint. Then going as well downstream of your operations. So footprint of people traveling, for example, to the stores, deliveries, product use at home, including all of this footprint as well. So first big exercise was to quantify the entire footprint across the value chain, and then to set the ambition in line with 1.5. And then we said, without any exclusions for the scope 3, we will halve the emissions by 2030 through drastic reduction of the emissions, including as well the carbon removal within the supply chain when it comes to agriculture practices and forestry practices, as well as we need to prolong product lives by using circularity to secure that carbon is stored for longer time. Then we said 1.5 requires to halve the emissions by 2030, and we said we would like to do more, and we have opportunity to do more, and enable as well, do the actions to enable society to transition net zero beyond our value chain. And then we said, if by halving the emissions and going beyond, we'll reduce more greenhouse gas emissions than IKEA value chain emits by 2030. And the examples of going beyond, it's offering home solar to the customers to generate and consume renewable energy at home, as well as it is a part connected to transforming full IKEA factories producing to IKEA to use renewable energy, because average factory producing to IKEA products produce 25% to IKEA, 75% to other company. And Inter IKEA, that is responsible for supply chain, said we will work with full factories to transform them to use renewable energy, which is not part of our value chain, but is part of going beyond an extended responsibility.
Yeah, so you're getting into scope 2 of your own suppliers. So you've kind of gone scope 3 of your own, then you work your way back up to their own scope. So Donya, that was the first question that came from Yvonne on the Slack channel, which is, you mentioned scope 1 and 2, and if you're like most companies, or I'm referring to Bosch now, most of the emissions challenge is in scope 3, and so you're not there with scope 3, or what's the plan, and when do you include that?
Mm-hmm. So Bosch is quite transparent about our sustainability strategy and also about our carbon neutral journey. So for scope 3, we are already committed, and this one is committed also in CDP and SBTI. We will reduce our scope 3 footprint by 2013 by 15%, 1.15%, 15%, which is quite a lot, because as an automotive and as an industry company, especially our suppliers needs to support us in this journey. And I think Karol just mentioned it. That's where we also work closely together with our suppliers to reduce our carbon footprint, but also so ways our products are used will be different. So we are investing a lot in how products will be used in the future, how they're designed, and how they can be while during lifetime, how can they save energy, and how can they be developed with less energy consumption. So these are all topics where we are really, I think I can be very proud to say we are very a leading company in these topics. And scope 3, as I said, we are very much committed to it. We are quite transparent, and we have a sustainability report where you can see all the details as well. Hope that answers the questions.
Thank you. So Annika, I want to bring you in. So you mentioned when we spoke, I guess your tagline, enabling fossil-free living within a generation. When we spoke about your targets, you said you'd reached your SBTI's 2-degree targets early, way early. And that kind of the critical question would be, was that, it's just, I think you were 10 years early, and it's just like, what does that mean? You know, either the targets were unambitious, or you really did some amazing things. Like, what is your perspective on that, and what are your targets like today?
Well, thank you. Well, like you said, we set a target 2019 to follow the 2 degrees trajectory, because that was what was available at that time for the energy industry. And that said that we would lower our emissions by close to 40% between 2017 and 2030. I can tell you that when we had looked at this 2 years earlier, everyone in the organization said, this is completely impossible. We won't be able to reach the 2 degree target. But we did do backcasting activities and found out a lot of different opportunities that were there, and we decided to set this target. But like you said, then we have released a lot of innovative energy, I would say, and people were starting to think really out of the box. That enabled us to already last year, or by December 2020, we had already reached this close to 40% reduction, because we closed the last coal plant in the Netherlands. We closed the largest coal plant we have in Germany, Moorburg. And both of these plants were closed like 15 years ahead of their expected lifetime. So we did quite clear ones. And in addition to that, we had replaced coal with biomass. We had also done, also built, of course, a lot of new renewable energy. So that in itself made us fulfill the target in only 3 years' time. And then, of course, then we are not happy. So then we decided that we need to have a very ambitious target for 2025. So now we have a target that is following the 1.5 degree trajectory until 2025. And right now we're looking at how will we be able to, until 2030, not only have the 40% reduction, but rather 75% reduction of the emissions until 2030. And we're not fully there, but we have an exciting strategy meeting coming up in just a few days, where we are exploring every opportunity. But I would be happy to come back to the challenges that lies in there, because we need to have entire society to move in the right direction, because we do need some kind of source for producing. Primarily it's for our heat production, because we only have 1% coal in our electricity production, but it's really in the heat production that we still have remaining coal. And of course we have the natural gas that we need to find an option to.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It was kind of an emissions divesting exercise, where, yeah, I guess you grew from being nuclear and hydro to acquiring dirty plants, getting rid of them, and now is the gap. This is where the hard part is, and maybe that's a good transition to get into actions. You know, we've talked about targets. So Karol, the question came, is IKEA working with startups on this topic? You know, so to put it maybe more broadly, is how much of what you're doing is internal, how much is external, how much do you rely on external innovation? And then maybe a corollary question, you know, I saw you, for example, for scope 2 in Russia, you go, well, our plant, you know, our stores are struggling to access green energy, so let's go buy some, was it solar plants? Mm. So is that the answer? You know, is that scalable? I mean, it works in the context of Russia, maybe, although I don't know how effective solar is there, but is that, you know, is it build your own? Is it work with external innovation? And what's your overall approach? And then I want to ask Donya a similar question, because somehow your whole existence of Bosch Climate Solutions is to share what you guys have done. So yeah, how are you approaching this?
I think it's both. So, and I can imagine that we can agree a lot on that one, because you have many internal stakeholders when you need to bring very clearly what is our performance and what actions are required, and then continuously push the boundaries to accelerate the speed of the transformation. So you need to collaborate across all the functions. It's not that you will create, like, for example, department responsible for climate or sustainability and will solve everything. It can be the center of expertise, provide the knowledge, but the decisions are taken across organization, and you need to secure that climate and climate footprint, it's part of the decisions. And that's a very important part of integration, as well as building capabilities and knowledge. And we know how important is just transition and to develop the skills. And within organizations, we need to work to as well increase the understanding of the climate within the different areas and the impact. So it's a lot about internal collaboration, collaboration with your supply chain as well, and the whole companies involved within your supply chain, as well as service providers like like deliveries services, for example, where we committed to have 100% zero emission deliveries by 2025. And then we need to collaborate with manufacturers of the vehicles, and we've been working on developing the vehicles for our needs with 2 car manufacturers. We need to collaborate with the EV chargers providers, because now we have EV chargers at all our premises at each IKEA store. And then, of course, it's when it comes to collaboration, you will need to have partners for different areas. So each area, actually, materials, energy use, products development, you need to have collaboration all across, and it needs to be part of your business to make it happen. And when it comes to, for example, renewable electricity generation, you mentioned Russia. Actually, I would say that's probably not the easiest market actually to source renewable electricity. And that's because if otherwise probably we won't be only one non-utility scale company that actually owns the renewable electricity generation to be able to reduce the footprint in Russia. Now we are looking into China, India, Korea, Japan, and Australia as the next markets. In Europe, European Union or Europe and North America, we generate already more renewable electricity that we are able to consume. On the group level, actually, we generate equivalent of 130%. So it's about constant integration. And here is the example of collaboration with Wettlauf, for example, because I don't know how much you are into the details when it comes to sourcing of renewable electricity, but majority of the sourcing now is done on the balancing on the 12-month basis, that the same amount of electricity as you consume is generated within 12 months. And we are innovating as well with external partners around 24/7 renewable electricity consumption, for example. And that's where we need to collaborate with other partners to learn and overcome obstacles. And and we do a lot of investments as well in venture capital in different companies. One of the, I think, great example is Retour Matras in Netherlands. When we know the recycling of mattresses and foam, it's very difficult. And we are committed to lead within this area. And we invested in a company which is disassembling the mattresses, and we are able to recycle and increase the capacity of recycling infrastructure in Netherlands. And we are looking forward to do it in more markets as well. So everything is about collaboration, internal and external. You need to have just very good strategic overview. Where are the challenges that you need to chase, and then find the right stakeholders.
Okay, Donya.
Yeah, I mean, Karol, if you need some collaboration support in your target countries, happy to reach out, really. I think we gained some experience here as well. Yeah, and collaboration, I think it's really the point. I mean, as an industry company, we really have significant amount of plants. And to reduce our energy in our plants, collaboration was absolutely crucial. So what we did, for example, in Bosch, we kicked off a program where we are using the entire experience of our teams in the plants and collaborating cross, as Karol already mentioned as well. And we have around 2,000 projects running on energy efficiency, figuring out how can we really reduce our energy consumption by changing processes, by using data more efficient, by thinking about how can I implement a smart shutdown system, for example, or how can I use air or wastewater in a different way. So all these projects are mainly driven by the teams in the plants, and we are looking heavily on solutions that then we can scale within the country because they are local solutions, or across countries because they are industry solutions. And this is the way how we are trying really to impact and use a collaboration of our teams and bring this knowledge not just within Bosch to our different locations, but also outside. So for me, also collaboration is a crucial part when we think about how can we tackle this challenge, how can we reduce energy, how can we generate energy smarter. These are all topics where if you have the right partners also in the area of energy generation, or if you have the right partners within an enterprise company and you are dealing together with the teams from IT, together with the guys from Industry 4.0, digital workspace and these things, then you really have a chance to speed up your process, to use this kind of diverse knowledge and to find the right solutions. So, and everything for us as well is under the strategic umbrella, becoming a sustainable company.
Okay, thank you. Annika, I want to bring you in. I know you're working on some pretty significant external partnerships, including aiming for fossil-free steel. Can you talk about your various external partnerships and that one in particular? Because as those of us who've read Bill Gates' book, and there are others, obviously, talk about the green premiums, and steel and cement where we have a massive gap. And so this is a very interesting area to hear about.
Absolutely, I would be happy to explore on that because I just fully echo what Karol and Donya has said, that collaboration is absolutely critical. And we have done something we started already almost 10 years back. We did a very clear mapping to see where can electricity play a role in helping society to transform into fossil-free. And that's when we realized that it's really the energy heavy or energy intensive industries as well as transports. And then we have very deliberately looked at what are the different sectors that we can collaborate with, and then we have identified partnerships. So like you said, I will quickly just mention we have partnerships within steel to produce fossil-free steel, because in Sweden steel emission stands for 10% of our emissions. And on a global level, it's actually 6 to 7% that comes from steel generation. So it's very important to tackle that one. You already also mentioned cement and concrete, and that's also where we have a collaboration partner in that area to see how we can produce fossil-free cement. Similarly, we talk with refineries and have collaboration with refineries. And then you have mines that also use quite a lot of electricity. So we walked into all of those, and then we have, since 10 years back, had a collaboration with Volvo Cars. So the plug-in hybrid technology that is now deployed in all Volvo Cars car models is a joint venture where we have developed that technology together. So, but if I zoom in specifically on cement and steel, because I think all of us, when we look at our Scope 3 emissions, when we want to build anything, the key components are always steel and concrete. And that is similar for Vattenfall. So when we build a new wind farm, the biggest footprint comes from steel and cement. So by joining forces with a supplier, in a sense, trying to develop a new technology, we will help not only ourselves to decarbonize in the supply chain, but we will help society. And if I then specifically address this steel collaboration, it's a collaboration or a joint venture between the Swedish mining company LKAB, the steel company SSAB, and then Vattenfall, the energy company. And we have set out to produce fossil-free steel. We already have a pilot plant running, and that one has already produced the first fossil-free steel, and it looks very, very promising. Then being a pilot plant that also has received subsidies, we're not able to sell that one. However, we're now about to build the demo plant, and out of the demo plant, we will be able to sell commercial fossil-free steel. And the plan is that we will produce that already 2026, which is extremely exciting. And like I said, if if we get this deployed, then we reduce emissions in Sweden only by 10%. But if we start using that globally, we will tackle 6 to 7% of the global emissions.
Oh, amazing. What is the current premium? What's the percentage difference versus normal market prices?
We talk about that it's approximately 20%. But I think what is important to remember is that once it reaches the customer, so once you buy a car or once you buy a wind turbine or whatever, then you only talk of a premium of 1%. And so it's really negligible. And we even believe now with the prices on carbon emissions and the different schemes that we will actually get into price parity. So this is something we calculated 1-2 years back, saying that we have a premium of 20%. But looking on a European level, that price difference is almost gone by now.
Yeah, that was actually one of my topics for all of you. We can come back to that. The funding of the premium on the consumer level. There was this BCG study that said for most products, the premium at the consumer level is 2 to 4%.
Yes.
For the steel manufacturer, it might be 20 at the moment, but actually, in many areas. So if we can find a way of using that extra funding to go back up the value chain, then we can actually fund some really big things. A couple thumbs up on this question. People are very curious about this fossil-free steel. I know you're not an engineer or deep in the plants, but can you give
Yeah, I'm an engineer though, sorry.
You are an engineer, sorry. Well, not in your current position, sorry about that. So yeah, just very quickly, how does it work? Can you describe what is the innovation there?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a almost 1,000-year-old technology that has been used. And to make it very simple, you could say what one does is that iron contains a lot of oxygen, and you need to get that oxygen out of the iron to have it clear. And what has been done is that you use coal or coks, and then you can say that that contains carbon, and the carbon acts like a glue, so it sort of glues together with the oxygen, and then you form carbon dioxide. But what we do now is to not have coal at all. Instead, we use hydrogen, and that hydrogen works as a glue as well. And when you glue hydrogen and oxygen together, you get water. So that is vapor. So what actually happens, instead of when you produce 1 ton of steel, you today emit 1.6 thousand tons of carbon dioxide. But if you instead use hydrogen, it's 25 kilograms. So you're pretty much down to zero. So that's in simple terms. And then you might ask yourself, where do you get the hydrogen from? And hydrogen, you get that by using electricity in an electrolyzer. So it's about by injecting electricity, you split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And then you use that hydrogen as the glue. Hopefully, for me being an engineer, I tried to make it as simplistic as possible. So hopefully that sort of came across how it works.
Alex, you're on.
Sorry about that. No, I was just saying thank you and respect for the engineering chops. I want to switch gears. I had a question for you, Donya, around culture. And there's a very good question from Lena Maria, which I'll read in a second. And my question was, is it, in setting up this new venture, in a way, Bosch Climate Solutions, is your culture different? And I want to read Lena Maria's question because I think it's great. How have the companies changed through this stronger focus on climate neutrality? Is there a different perception on what corporate value is? Are decisions made differently? Is there a different perception of what's important? So yeah, interesting, it's a big German conglomerate, Bosch, with all of its pros and cons on culture. And then you set up this new company with a completely different focus, or at least a stated mission on climate. And is the culture different? And yeah, what are the implications?
I mean, I think every company who started the journey, and so was it happens in Bosch, and for sure it happens if you are in this tiny, let's say, environment of a startup. You have somehow a spirit in this case, which is a positive one. And for us, as a bigger company, as a Bosch company, the sustainability focus was really something where you start to join forces across departments. So it starts with product development. It's not just the development, it's the packaging. So for example, in power tools, we have our most famous Ixus. Ixus is one of our tiny, beautiful drill machines, and the entire packaging, the development and everything is focusing much more on sustainability. So how much everything is now without plastic when we try to send it to our clients. And as I said, we are using more and more stuff which is recycled, and also so you are really framing an environment and a culture which is motivated to bring in crazy ideas, new perspectives, and things where you collaborate with other departments or also with other partners in the market. I mean, Annika just mentioned where to partner with, and in Bosch we have just announced a partnership with Shell and Volkswagen on e-fuels. That's what I see in the spirit of changing. You change cultures, you change perspectives, and you find new partnerships also in areas you never thought about it a couple of years ago. But that's the beauty of sustainability. It's something, it's not questions if the target is the right one. The question is, how can we go there as fast as possible? And also first an economy point of view. So everything needs to have a return, because companies are working not just as an NGO, they are business leader, and therefore the sustainability part also kicks off a financial discussion, and the entire culture is really in a more, let's say, joint spirit underway. That's my observation at the moment, and not just in Bosch, also with the clients where we are working with. For example, one of our customers is Hans Grohe, that frames the name Green Company, or the other one is Prettel, with Prettel Go Zero. And with the slogan itself and with the strategy behind, you create a spirit of creativity, and that is something where you really can join your entire workforce under one umbrella and kick off their creative ideas and expertise.
Karol, is the IKEA culture an advantage for your mission or an inhibitor, and how much of a factor is that?
Yeah, I think definitely it is, and why it is, because IKEA for tens of years already has the vision to create better everyday life for the many people, and we see that climate change, inequality are threatening this vision, and we need to address it. And that's clear for people across the organization, that we need to work towards that by using our vision and our values, where one of the key values of IKEA is to care for people and planet. And this is reflected within the decision. And observing, I think, where we are on the climate journey, I think at the end, when we talk about companies, we talk about people. People are taking the decisions within the companies and so on. And we truly believe that people have good intentions and to do the right things, but sometimes the not right habits are being encouraged today. And especially when fossil fuels are being subsidized, when pollution is not being priced, and so on, it's much more difficult to take these right decisions for many individuals and companies. And when we ask our customers, they are saying as well, we don't feel enabled to live in the low climate with low climate footprint, because it's not as convenient, or it's not as affordable. Of course, it is changing, because we see many great examples how it's becoming affordable through, for example, second-hand market. But that's something what we need to change, and that's where companies, and especially leaders of the companies, have massive role to play to signal to the governments. And now as well, yesterday was just a letter released to before G7 meeting to say, like, we want to have a change. We want to have different system when we are able to take the right decisions, and we are not having this dilemma. Like people don't have this dilemma, and I think this is important part. I think to mention. Can I just go back to Annika example on the steel and premium, because I think this is really interesting question. We always very often ask, you know, what is the premium when something is on the early stage, and then we say, you know, oh, it's, for example, even like 1% on the product level, it's more expensive, but we say it's expensive. But we know when we scale it up, these solutions, actually the price goes down. And one of the examples was when IKEA took the decision in 2012 that we'll sell only LED lighting. The cheapest LED bulb costed 10 euro. And then in 2015, IKEA said, okay, we'll stop to sell any other than LED lighting range, and we will phase down. And then the price of the same LED was at 80% lower. So of course, like there is, and that's very often when we look into the scenarios today, we see, oh, it's more expensive, but at the end, it won't be if we will scale it up and put the right investments. And that's why it's so important that the right investments are following, and all this discussion about investments and, you know, financial sector, because we can bring the cost down. And I strongly believe new net zero economy is as well more affordable and fair economy, because it's much more shared. We need to share transportation, and this will bring the cost down, products, and be much more plant-based. And we know, you know, as well how subsidized is the food sector when it comes to the meat one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I want to bring the same question to Annika. If I remember right, you said you were 30 years in the company. You're now very senior, I think part of the exec committee. How has the culture changed in that time, and how is it affecting your day-to-day job?
Well, I think, first of all, we are very engineering heavy, meaning that we're very, very fact focused. I have always felt also, since we have the state as an owner, it's also very friendly. It has never sort of been, you're not chasing every month the bottom line sort of. So I would say it has always been friendly, very fact focused culture. But that also means that you need to do everything right from the beginning and in all different details. What I think has happened now with the clear purpose we have to power climate smarter living, or in easier word, to enable fossil-free living within a generation, that has also created not only sort of the open and positive atmosphere that we've always had, it has also triggered the active, which is another one of our core values. People are extremely active now in trying to be innovative, and everyone is asking themselves, how can I as a person contribute to the enabling fossil-free living? How can my unit do that? How can I collaborate with internal partners or external partners in really making this transformative changes? And I'm so amazed. I just look at my mailbox and it makes me happy not to have too many mails, but to see all the energy from people that come up with great ideas. And we've also therefore launched an innovation competition that we've run now on a yearly basis, a number of years, and so many fantastic innovations are coming up. So I would really say, to have a clear purpose where you see that your company is contributing to society, that is the way to go. And that's when you get people to realize that by collaborating, we become stronger. And I think it's also very much a curiosity that has spurred. Earlier, everyone felt that we always have the answer, we know how to do it, and we can calculate because we are engineers. But now the speed of change is so high that everyone has come to the realization we cannot do it on our own. It's really by bringing in completely different views that we enable ourselves to really take the transformative decisions and come up with completely new ideas. And I think this is why we have proven now in a number of partnerships that this is speeding up things and that we really contribute to society. And therefore, I mean, the number of ideas that come in on new partnerships are enormous. So now we need to prioritize where we really can have the biggest impact and the biggest leverage, because we could do so much and there are multiple opportunities to collaborate.
Great, thank you. I want to give you three a chance to ask each other questions as well. But while you think of that, maybe one more question. We just spoke about internal, external, and being open to outside innovation. And the question came from Michael around product design. We've talked about circularity. Karol, you mentioned the mattress recycling. So obviously, second use of products, that's sort of end of life. What about at the beginning of the circle? And speaking of that, what about opening up product design to the outside world? Obviously a key strength for all of your companies, in particular, I guess, Bosch and IKEA. But how are you changing product design and the beginning of that circle so that things are designed with circularity in mind from day one? Maybe Donya. Okay, go ahead, Karol.
Thank you. First of all, you need to have clear principles how to integrate circular design, and that's what IKEA has developed and as well shared externally as well, the design principles that the products are designed to be reused, resold, remanufactured, repaired, resold, and at the end recycled. So we need to consider all of these topics at the beginning of the work. And IKEA have been working for the last 2 years as well to assess all the range and circular capabilities of all hundreds of products, and to be able to push this development, because we need to as well understand that design is of course not one time off. It will be continuously changing and making even more circular as we go further. And of course, like collaboration is a key here, and there are like many collaboration activities and announcements as well, which you can please visit IKEA.com as well to read about some of them, because I think this is very interesting journey. But one part is of course design, and the other is you need to as well build the infrastructure for to circulate the products within the society, as well to develop recycling infrastructure. And these are the three important elements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't agree more, Karol. Absolutely, and especially in the design. I mean, I'm not the design expert, but we have internal and external innovation days. We are really trying to use the broader knowledge of teams. We have awards for different kind of ideas. We are awarding them, and with all these activities, we are kicking off creativity. For sure, design principles and guidelines has to be published so that it fulfills our environment, but especially in the area of circular economy, I think we will see a bigger step forward. In the area of spare parts, for example, for cars, that's a big part. Electric vehicle is one of the other ones where we have to rethink how can we really think end to end, also from a design perspective, from a product usage, and all steps in between. How can we build up the infrastructure, as Karol said? So there are a lot of activities going on. And I think one of the challenges, and Annika, she mentioned it before, how can you leverage all different areas at the moment? Because it's not just one topic where you say, okay, it's just design, or for example, it's just innovation. There are so many areas involved, and the challenge is really bring everything in balance and make sure that at the end, you are not blocking yourself, you are using it really as an energy push, and move your company forward regarding sustainability. And this is one of the really big challenges for big companies, for enterprise companies with a history, or for any other player in this game. And what helps is our values, and is a clear strategy. For us in Bosch, we have this kind of sustainability like a Bosch. Some of you might have heard about it, but this really gives us a push where to think about, how to focus, and also gives us somehow a guideline based on values where we would like to go further.
Right. Do any of you have a question for the other? Otherwise, I have a question for Annika.
Yeah.
I have actually to Donya on the part of the Bosch, and where do you see the part of the enabling the customers, especially, to live within the low climate footprint? where do you see the biggest opportunities?
For the customers, I mean, it's really product usage. How can you design products that are less energy consuming, for example, and how can you also ensure a circular economy while using products? I mean, we are all talking about lowering our carbon footprint, but if you think about thermotechnology, how many people think about what kind of thermotechnology is really in the house? These are things where we really try to make a difference, and it helps if you are transparent enough. If you can show especially end customers a difference in transparency about the carbon footprint. And I'm wondering, I mean, I'm really looking forward that maybe in a couple of weeks, months, years, I don't know, you see also, at the moment you see the energy consumption, yeah, A, B, C on your product, but when do you see the footprint while producing and while using? This would be an interesting discussion then, if you have this kind of transparency that you know precisely if you make a decision for a product that is a carbon footprint while producing, and that's the expected carbon footprint while using it. And then you can make a wise decision where to invest and how to buy stuff in the future. One of the things I had in mind. But maybe Annika, if you don't mind, if I can ask you something, because Vattenfall is a great example and also a company with a legacy. Is there a moment of truth in your mind where you think, so this was really a point when the entire company understood sustainability is not an option, is really our way where we want to go? Because this kind of, you know, bringing the board behind and kicking it off so the entire enterprise is really one of the big challenges where to start.
Well, I think it was really, for me that I've been around so long, I think we were having some think tanks just around the turn of the century. And then a group of us had envisioned that we need to start looking very much into the climate footprint. And it was difficult to get, in particular, people on the continent to see that there even was going to be a questioning around the fossil fuels. But I think the decisive moment is really when you start seeing that you get stranded assets, sort of that you are building assets, and then you realize that once they have just been ready to start getting in use, and they might be one of the world's most efficient ones, just because it was based on coal instead of renewable fuel, for instance, then you start seeing how capital was deteriorating. So I would say that gives a very clear signal. But just to illustrate how things are switching in the board, I had a presentation to our board of directors just 2 weeks ago, talking about the general sort of strategic sustainability related topics that are on the verge with all the trends, and also then show what we're working with. It's everything from sustainable digitalization to having the clear roadmap for how to decarbonize. It's how we have a plan for human rights, in particular focusing on how you put requirements in your supply chain, how we deep dive in all our supply chain, really understanding where you have both environmental and social negative impact, etc. And to see that the board has for a long time talked about that, yes, we see that sustainability is the business, but this was the first time when I felt the most heavy financial persons within our board, all of them said, it is so clear that there is no other way to go than to do exactly what we've done in Vattenfall, to say that sustainability is the business. And it's so clear that we see all the new business opportunities arise, especially from having sustainability at the heart, where you bring in the triple bottom line when you make a conscious decision. And they also said, now it's clear that we don't have a separate sustainability strategy, but that our business strategy is sustainable. And that's something we threw out the sustainability strategy 6 years or almost 7 years ago now. So it's clear to see the shift, not only among employees or those that are the ambassadors, but when you see also those that come in with a specific financial goggles on, they also see that now this is where we need to go. And I think that's, it's amazing, really.
Right, thank you. So we've got about 5-6 minutes left. I want to take a couple more questions from Slack, and we've been talking about boards and strategies. You did mention employees, Annika, just now.
Yes.
There's a great question from Delphine. At your companies, how do you inform and teach your employees about the climate issues to improve their understanding of the situation, motivate them to go further? So what are you doing, you know, at the employee level, and just to make sure the entire company is with, and it's not just a board and strategy issue? So open question to all of you, and maybe you want to start, Annika.
Yes, well, I think it all in a way started when we now 5 years ago launched the new purpose, which was really a collaborative effort, both bottom up and top down, where everyone had been involved. And a lot of it was circulating around trends, climate, and we do a lot of, I mean, we both ask external stakeholders and bring in science to talk about it internally within the different groups. It's a lot of information on the intranet. We have different webinars. And again, since it is at the heart of everything we do, it becomes a natural thing and people are curious. So, I mean, I don't know how many webinars we've had internally on the different topics. And it's also asked for, but we are very clear about also bringing in the external perspectives when we are setting the strategy or working with business plans, or there are different team meetings, sort of merging these. This is what science says. This is what our customer wants. This is what the suppliers say. And how do we meet all these expectations? And somehow I think it's not about having lectures, but really about showing the holistic picture. And I think the turning point, also coming back to what you said, Donya, I think the thing that have made all our employees see that sustainability is the business is that they see how we can contribute to society, but also understand the different stakeholders' expectations on us as an energy company, what we can do or cannot do. And then they create their own holistic view on how we are to go there. We are very transparent about talking about challenges and how we try to meet the challenges as well. So I think it's about really daring to be transparent about these are the societal challenges, this is what we can do, but it also poses a lot of, we know where we want to go, but there are a number of hurdles to get there. And how do we remove them? Who are the actors that can impact those hurdles? So that is really giving everyone a good overview, I would say, by being part of all of these different type of inflows.
Right. Karol, I've seen you've been writing down furiously, so.
Yeah, I so agree with Annika. I was just saying that, yeah, bring the science outside in perspective to follow the science. So it's not a matter of opinion, but it's a matter of science. I think this is really important. Climate action research. We do like every second year climate action research to see how the awareness around climate is changing as well in all the markets where we are working. So this brings very tangible numbers. It's not, again, opinion. It's what is happening within the society from customer perspective. One of my, I think, keys as well, is to make your CEO and board climate geeks. Invest time to spend with them to that they understand the climate and they understand the consequences, and go into the complexity with them. Because of course they are in much more meetings when they are taking the decisions and when they are working with the people who are taking direct decisions. So it is important that they are fully on board. So this part, then the newest part, I think, which is going very well, because the organization is big and the decisions are taken on the country level as well. So for example, one of the next steps we have, it's like to have meetings with each country management team to make them more climate geeky as well within this area. And as a next step, what I see is connecting to this, sustainability strategy is a business strategy. It is about TCFD framework and how you bring climate-related risks and the net zero transformation opportunities into the financial terms. to show to your organization what does mean from the financial phase within 2 years, 3 years, because the cost structure we have today will look different in the future. And that's what companies need to be very well prepared for.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a question. We don't have time to take Rebecca's question in the Slack, but I encourage the three of you also to look in the Slack, and there's some questions we didn't get to, but it was about decision making. Donya, the last word in a minute or two, and then
I try to compromise it, but I would agree. In Bosch, our board are climate geeks, as Karol said, and we have this sustainability like in Bosch, and all what we do is invented for life. And I think these two, let's say, slogans shows where we are in our transformation. That's transparency, facts and figures. We are engineers as well, so we are very, very number-based. And that's how we are really encourage our workforce also to bring in their ideas and be as transparent as possible about achievements, goals, but also on learnings inside and outside the company. And that's, I think, what the spirit of the sustainability journey we are in since more than 10 years now, or 15 years, I would say. 2007 we started. That's the spirit of our journey, and we are continuing here. And we are really tackling this challenge, not just Bosch, but really together. And therefore, I'm quite happy to be here with Annika, with you, Alex, but Karol. And I would like to say one word to Karol, because the IKEA commercial these days are fantastic. I think it's really an eye-opener to think and change perspective. And you see a sheep with all your plastic bottles around. It's really a very, very impressive way how to visualize also the challenge where we are. And thanks for that one. It's really fantastic. And Alex, back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's where we can leave with a positive note. And thank you, Donya, Karol, Annika, for your time. Clearly, there are people inside the companies. The big companies are led by people like you, and we love the climate geeks. And thank you for your time. And Lara and Yasha, thank you for putting on the conference. Thank you for the opportunity. All of this is recorded. I'm sure will be shared. And last word to Lara, maybe.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a wonderful panel. I was really fascinated by listening to you. And yeah, I think that was a very nice closing word. So to give all these companies a personal note and to understand what are the challenges inside. And we heard it also to not just share the goals, but also the learnings and how by step we can as a community share things and also implement them to really live the transformation. That was really nice to hear. And as Alex said, I really invite you to take questions also afterwards in Slack and to connect to the community. And with that, I would close the panel and invite you to stay if you want to listen afterwards. And thanks a lot, Alex, for your wonderful calmness and just moderating through every challenge. So that's a live event. There's always something coming up. So I'm happy we brought everyone together in the end. Thanks a lot, Annika, for joining this way as well. And we're going to be back soonish with the startup pitches where we hear what other innovators are working on. So thanks a lot. Hear you back in a bit.